Good morning and welcome to this ceremony to award late Alberto del Giudice, born in 1923, emigrated in Canada in 1956, and passed in 2007 with a Medal of Honor in presence of his daughter, Luisa del Giudice, and his widow, Liliana, that I'm very happy could attend this ceremony. Thank you, Liliana, for being here with us. Unfortunately, we had to go virtual, and for logistical reasons and uncertainties due to the pandemic, we could not organize this ceremony on the 27th of January, which is a day of remembrance. But we chose today because it is not very far from that date, and also because 7th of February today was the birthday of late Alberto del Giudice. So since 2006, the Italian government started recognizing the special contribution of Italian military internees with the Medal of Honor. Many books based mainly on war diaries, mostly of officers, were written recently on this topic, but less is known from the perspective of common soldiers. Luisa del Giudice's research, based on oral interviews done beginning in the 80s with her father, and just transcribed and integrated into the larger war history of this second part of World War II, is very valuable also for this reason. So thank you, Luisa, for your job and your work on this. This chapter of Italian history began 8th of September 1943, when more of 650,000 Italian soldiers who had refused to fight for the Axis were disarmed by the Wehrmacht and then deported to the Reich for forced labor. They were deprived of the prisoner of war status, and they were thus classified as Italian military internees by the Germans. As a consequence of this decision, the Red Cross and other international organizations could not reach their camps and go and help them. And so they were not granted the conditions of the Geneva Convention agreements on prisoner of wars. And they were actually treated as slaves and employed in factory in very bad conditions. Until February 1944, the German authorities offered the Italian military internees the possibility to become Salon military units, which meant that they could be freed, leave the camps and go back to Italy. But most of them, the big majority of them, more than 600,000 men, refused this opportunity, preferring to be interned over becoming again a part of the fascist army. So thousands of these soldiers died of starvation, disease, violence, also outright execution. Luisa del Giudice, scholar of oral history, oral culture, ethnology, and founder director of the ex-Italian Oral History Institute here in Los Angeles, has tackled this history of Italian military internees through her father's story. Understood only recently fully, I think, Luisa, but also thanks to COVID 2020, all the lockdown, she could retrieve new material. She began opening closets and dusty boxes, digitizing materials, and listening more carefully to those words for her research. She has already presented some of this research in an interview with the John D. Calandra Institute of New York and in a at the 2021 meeting in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, of the American Folklore Society. You can find these interviews online, but she's also in process of publishing her material, and we're very much looking forward to see all of this. Now I will switch to Italian. Volevo passare all'italiano per comunicare che ho l'onore di consegnare virtualmente medaglia d'onore ad Alberto del Giudice, nato a Terracina il 7 febbraio 1923, internato a Mecklenburg in Germania dall'8 settembre 1943 al 27 luglio 1945, conferita dalla Presidenza del Consiglio dei Ministri. Questa è la medaglia.
Oh, grazie.
Grazie.
And now, Luisa, the floor is yours.
Cara console Silvia Chiave, da parte mia, di mia madre e di tutta la famiglia, grazie di cuore. Siamo felici che il governo italiano, anche se decenni dopo la guerra, abbia disposto questo importante riconoscimento del merito di mio padre Alberto, uno dei 650.000 militari italiani che dissero no ai fascisti l'8 settembre del 1943 e che per la loro resistenza senza armi finirono dei campi di concentramento, dai quali molti non tornarono. Sono particolarmente felice che questa cerimonia si faccia nel giorno della sua nascita. Avrebbe avuto 99 anni oggi, davanti a sua moglie, mia madre, Liliana, 95enne, arrivata da Toronto qualche mese fa, e pochi giorni dopo la nascita della nostra nuova nipotina Serafina, così da ricordarci del nostro ruolo di filo conduttore tra antenati e discendenti. Ho passato tutta la mia vita professionale a fare proprio questo, a documentare storie di vita, di cultura, a studiarla e a raccontarla in pubblicazioni e programmi vari, tra cui questa storia di prigionia e guerra, di migrazione e diaspora. Riconnettere questo filo della memoria l'ho sempre considerato un dovere solenne ed inevitabile, se vogliamo vivere in maniera etica e responsabile. Dobbiamo sempre ricordare e soprattutto impararne qualcosa di utile, lezioni di vita a scopo di diminuire le sofferenze, di fare tutto il possibile per il bene comune, i valori della libertà, i diritti umani, la pace. Oggi più che mai resistere ad ogni forma nuova di nazifascismo. Di questo sono pienamente convinta. Grazie papà per i tuoi sacrifici fisici e morali che hai dovuto subire e superare per sostenere questi valori, sacrifici di cui non ti sei mai vantato. Al contrario, hai sempre ripudiato ogni forma di glorificazione retorica della guerra, così come i discorsi di esaltazione dei eroismi patriottici. Adesso, finalmente e per sempre, riposa in pace. E vorrei ripeterlo in inglese se non ti spiace. Dear Consul Silvia Chiave, on my mother's and my family's behalf, thank you from the bottom of my heart. We are so pleased about this important Italian government recognition, even if decades later, of the merits of my father, Alberto, one of the 650,000 Italian soldiers who said no to the Nazis on September 8th, 1943, and who, for their resistance without arms, were condemned to concentration camps, from which so many never returned. I'm especially happy that this ceremony is taking place on what would have been his 99th birthday before his wife, my mother, Liliana, 95, and who arrived from Toronto a couple of months ago, and just a few days after the birth of our new granddaughter, Serafina, thus reminding us of our role as mediators between ancestors and descendants. I've spent my entire professional life doing just that, documenting life stories, cultural memory, and recounting them in publications and public programs. Among them, the specific story of war and imprisonment, migration, and diaspora. I have always considered connecting these memorial threads to be a solemn and inevitable duty in order to live ethically and responsibly. We must always remember and seek to learn something useful from all this remembering, lessons for life, in order to diminish suffering and to do all that is possible for the values of the common good of freedom, human rights, and peace. Today, more than ever, we must resist all new forms of Nazi fascism. I am fully convinced of this purpose. Thank you, Dad, for the physical and moral sacrifices you faced and overcame in order to uphold these values, sacrifices about which you never boasted. On the contrary, you always detested glorifications of war, stories of violence, and so-called patriotic heroism. Now, finally and forever, rest in peace. And I'll end with an image of, I hope I can do that. Here we are. And this is an image of my father, taken for a passport, for his first passport, to emigrate after the war to Canada. Thank you, Consul Silvia Chiave, for all your help in obtaining this medal for him.
Thank you. Thank you, Louisa, and thank you, Liliana, for participating to this and being here for this solemn moment.
Thank you.